right, good evening and welcome to Futbol En Vivo on Club Deportes Season 2, Episode 12. We are every week on clubdeportes.com. Follow us on Twitter at Futbol Austin. That's Futbol Austin. Follow Club Deportes at Club Deportes for all the latest and greatest sports news and commentary. You got to go to clubdeportes.com. I am your host, Eric McCoy, and I am joined by a man who says there is no more terrifying sight than an Austin FC lineup that doesn't include Sebastian Driussi on it. It's Jorge Chavez.
Yeah, I'm a little bit happy today, to be honest, but we'll get into that.
Yes, indeed. Now, no David Alvarez for the second week in a row, because he is deeply confused that a man named Claudio Bravo scored a goal for the Portland Timbers against Austin FC. He just can't believe a Claudio Bravo would score against Austin FC. I guess there's two Claudio Bravos.
Two Claudios,
in the world.
yeah.
Okay, yes, we're coming off a 2-2 draw for Austin FC. Second straight 2-2 draw for Austin FC. Another late equalizer for the home team here. Jorge, just before we get into the lineups and everything like that, just want to get your thoughts real quick on your overall impressions of the game. And before we do that,
yes,
let me introduce our guest.
Yes,
I'm so here.
I was going to
thrown off. I know David.
I was going to turn it a little bit towards that.
Yeah, all out of sorts here. We have a special guest from the False Nine, and he also does some blogging for We Are Austin TV. We've got Scott Specht in the house. How you doing, Scott?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. No, I was going to let you finish your spiel, and then I was just going to start talking.
I
was just going to act like the question was also posed to me.
Are we going to ignore the guy next to us? Or?
Well, that actually would have been a really funny premise of just like going on.
We could have thrown the audience off a little bit, but
I'm pulling double duty tonight. You guys do one show to FCTV first. I think my brain's only used to doing one show. But Scott, you're with the False Nine, and you do some blogging for We Are Austin TV. I love the False Nine. The False Nine is hilarious. Just how did you get your start doing the False Nine?
The False Nine started the way a lot of great things started. It was a bunch of friends sitting around drinking beer, shit talking Austin FC.
Nice.
And it started as a joke for a long time, and then we started a Twitter account and started a blog, and all that fun stuff. And it's been a really great journey of writing very earnest, very serious pieces where we keep track of the record by Josh Wolf, the shirt color Josh Wolf is wearing, and when goals are scored based on what songs are being played, because our Facebook group decided that one of the songs was cursed. You can see the article that I posted today is about why we should care about U.S. Open Cup, and the very short reason is that Austin has never won a real cup competition, and we need to win something at some point.
Absolutely,
that's why we should care. And then you can see the first thing on our Twitter feed is a great edit somebody made of a Stone Cold Steve Austin and WWE clip, but replaced everything with Will Bruin coming on to ruin Portland Timbers fans.
Yes,
which we found because Will Bruin liked it and retweeted it, and you can tell that he's just a really good person, very happy to be here, and he's very excited about the goal on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a ton of fun. And so in addition to the False Nine, you use some blogging for We Are Austin TV. So you kind of do the opposition scouting report, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a regular feature called What You Need to Know. And it's basically the idea that, there's a lot of Austin fans who only watch Austin and don't, watch a lot of other teams around the league, and trying to make sure that everybody can come in with like a basis of knowledge of what you'll be seeing from the other side. It's a quick breakdown of, their last few matches, their history against Austin, key players, things to look for, stuff like that. And it's been really helpful for me as somebody who only got into MLS when Austin started playing, being able to watch all those teams.
Right.
And how difficult is that to do, to kind of keep track of the other teams in the league? There are a lot more teams in MLS now than what there used to be. So.
It's a lot easier with the Apple TV deal because everything's just kind of in one place.
Yes.
So between that and like Football Reference, like you can get a lot just if you're willing to put the time in.
FBRF makes me sound a lot smarter.
It's so good. It's also helpful that I work from home in a job that doesn't require me to be on the phones too much, and so having a soccer game on in the background is just kind of helps me. So that's been a good symbiosis.
Nice. Okay, well, great to have you on the show here, Scott.
Thank you for having me.
Apologies for my rudeness, not introducing you at first, but hey, we're on track now. We got this show up and running now. Look at that. There you go. Jerry's on it. Jerry never takes a week off. He's always good to go. But yeah, let's go ahead and get down to business. 2-2 draw, Austin FC against the Portland Timbers. Just before we get to the starting 11, I want to get you guys' thoughts overall on this match. Should we be happy? Should we be frustrated? Jorge, what did you think of the match?
I thought it was a good test in the sense that, none of us really expected Driussi not to be starting this game. So when we got the news that he's got a groin injury, he's probably out for 4 weeks.
How scared were you guys when you saw that lineup and you didn't see Driussi's name on there?
Well, when I first saw the lineup, I thought they were going to rest him for tomorrow's U.S. Open game. Nothing serious. And then word started coming out on Twitter and all over the place that it's actually an injury, probably happened the Friday before the Saturday game. It was a little scary.
I was more surprised than anything else because I think I wouldn't have been surprised at giving him some rest before he come back, especially away and on turf and stuff like that. But then not seeing him on the bench was immediately kind of like alarm bells of like something's going on. And it didn't help that we only found out about it from the Apple TV announcers. And the English announcers and the Spanish announcers gave two different reports on what was going on.
Right.
And so just a lot of, conflicting information or non-information from the club just makes that a very worrisome situation for us who, live and breathe this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I saw the game watching the Spanish feed. And I agree with him. They really talk about it too much.
What was it? Because in the English feed, they said about a month was the timeline they were giving. And Wolf, after the match, did not specify.
He didn't specify, but they gave about the same timeline. No, 3 to 4 weeks.
Wolf went to great lengths to not answer the question about how long.
It could have been that he just didn't know, or he just didn't want anybody else to know how long he's going to be out. Because this, groin injuries they're pretty common this year for a lot of Austin FC players, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, a lot of muscle injuries, a lot of just injuries in general. We were kind of talking on FC TV that, a disconcerting amount of Austin FC players are seeing time out due to injury this season.
And that's also kind of been a league-wide thing. Looking at Portland, they've already lost Eric Williamson for the year. They got Christian Paredes back, but they have kind of been shuffling people in and out. And that's the case of a lot of teams this year. I'm not sure why that is, what's going on, but it does seem to be like injuries are slightly on the uptick.
Yeah, most definitely. And Scott, so what were your impressions overall from this game? Were you happy? Were you sad? 2-2 away to Portland. Is this a good or a bad thing?
I mean, I think it was a good result, especially looking at game state. Going down a goal twice and fighting back to get a draw shows something about the team in terms of heart and determination that's really important. It's also an away point. Austin is not good at getting away points. It's an away point in Cascadia, which this is only the second that Austin's ever gotten. The other one was a 0-0 draw in 2021.
That was a dire match.
Which was not no, it was bad. I was watching that match with friends who were not used to watching soccer, and I was like, "This is better than this." And 60 minutes in, I was like, "I swear it's not always like this." I swear. So I think both those things lead to positives. You have to think that there is some momentum. It is a good result. Even if it doesn't, even if the equalizer's not until the 92nd minute.
Yeah, and it could have messed with the team overall not having Driussi there. And
I'm sure.
So kudos to the team really for coming together despite that drawback. That's really going to be a drawback for the rest of the month. But I guess they didn't have enough time to worry about it. That they just went ahead and next guy up.
So conspiracy theory.
Okay.
My conspiracy theory is that they actually knew about it on Thursday or Friday.
That's what I was going to ask. I wonder when they knew.
And intentionally didn't tell anybody because they wanted Portland to set up and train under the idea that they were going to go against Driussi. And then Josh Wolf was like, haha, he's actually not healthy.
Wait, sounds plausible,
Wait, that's not good.
That's why we gave him the contract extension right there, huh?
Contract extension of, I'm going to act like my player's healthy and he's not.
That kind of gamesmanship. Which
could be a thing. I mean, I understand. I mean, year one, he got mad at reporters reporting who was on the plane. I could see him.
Mr. Terralde back there was the one that reported that. But yeah, most definitely. Can we get to the starting 11 there, Jerry? Just kind of, obviously no Driussi, but a few other interesting things here. So for the first time in a while, at least, we saw a back three from Austin FC in this game. Scott, did you like the formation, the new look 3-4-3 for Austin FC?
I did, because I liked how it played functionally when I was watching it. I thought that the back three did a very good job of shuffling side to side, enabling the wing back to get forward. Especially in the first half, I thought Adam Lundqvist did a really good job of providing attacking width and an outlet. And his service in the box was really good. He did a very good job of hitting balls in between the back of the defense line and the keeper and trying to make the defenders run back at their goal. And then obviously Gallagher was able to get high enough up to head a ball from 2 yards out. So, the freedom that afforded them to get forward and attack, I thought, one, made a lot of sense, and two, worked really well.
Yeah, 100%. How'd you like it, Jorge?
I liked it in the sense that I was a little surprised that Cascante not started, but it was captain. I was a little surprised.
Yes, I had that saved for later. We can get into that now if you want.
Let me get into the spiel here. But one thing that I did notice is on that new alignment was Ring moving up to midfield, which is something that we had clamored for a long time. All this month for him to get away from the defense. And with Cascante coming back, that facilitated Ring going to midfield, which really cascaded on forward. And I think that played, especially in the head of Owen Wolf. He played much better with a Ring next to him.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of like tactical semantics, but I love tactical semantics. I would have thought Ring was more of a third center back in this system, but whenever Austin FC had possession, he did push further forward, and I think that did allow a little bit more freedom for Owen as well. So
and you could see, Owen Wolf was involved in both goals.
Yes,
he moved the ball forward, which is something that he was probably a little hesitant because of that error against the LA Galaxy. So that could have played it in his head, but kudos to him because he overcame that and he actually moved forward and good results happened.
Yeah.
It's also a reminder that Owen's natural position is more of an attacking midfielder in a 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
And having having a few more bodies behind him allowed him to have a little more freedom to go forward, which functionally worked very well.
Yeah, having an extra center back plus Danny Pereira behind him, I think that definitely gave him a bit more freedom. And the other thing I like too about the formation, we can kind of go back to that, with those wingbacks pushing high and wide, I think that allowed both Rigoni and Redes to kind of play a bit more tucked in centrally, which I think in particular really suited the man that we have always believed in on this show. And he rewarded us with an assist. So back-to-back matches with goal contributions from Rigoni.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I do think this formation, and I do think playing on the left side, as we talked about a bit on FCTV, I think that does suit Rigoni a bit more than when he's on the right. Wolf, I asked him about that in the press conference. He kind of dismissed me as like, no, he can play anywhere. But I do think he actually does look a lot better on the left than
he probably can play anywhere he wants, but he's much more efficient on the left side. So.
Well, he seems much more comfortable on the left side making runs in, and especially running in the box. Because when he's on the right, he doesn't seem comfortable doing that.
I think he's lazy on the right. He just seems to just kind of drift in and just whipping across with his left foot. We see that all the time when he's on his right.
Process to see if they connect with somebody.
Yeah. I mean, this is why you should never play inverted wingers. Like,
exactly.
It just
exactly.
I think that's a good point. See, the other big thing about that starting 11, it's Giassi Zardes. Now, I have been on this show for the past several weeks, metaphorically pounding my fist on this table that I wanted to see. Not actually pounding my fist on the table, because Jerry doesn't like that when you hit the table.
Yes.
So it's metaphorically pounding my fist. Finally got a Zardes start, and my man Giassi did not really do me a solid on
He
this
didn't
one.
look like he impacted the game. His name wasn't called.
He had one shot, I believe it took him to the 77th minute for that shot.
I mean, Josh Wolf said that he had a great game, and
you did see that, yes.
And I question if Josh Wolf was watching the same match the rest of us was. My bigger issue is that I don't understand why Zardes is left up front as a hold-up player to try to distribute when that's not what he's good at.
I think that's a really good point, because you have he's doing a lot of the dropping into midfield, But who's really making those runs in behind for him to distribute to? Like, we don't really see Rigoni make those runs. We don't really see Redis make those runs. So what is the point of having him do that? He's the best goal scorer on the team. Put him in the box.
Put him in the front. Yeah.
Let him do his damage there.
Yeah.
Okay, one, he's not the best goal scorer on the team.
Well, best goal in this match. I think he was the... Who would
What?
be the best goal scorer? Like,
Okay, let's just remember that Zarda's scoring goals for Austin FC is at this point theoretical.
it is very theoretical.
He only has 2 shots on goal in MLS play. In your point of who's making the runs, at some point it doesn't matter who's making the runs because, I think we only saw one instance during the match on Saturday where he actually had the ball in a holding position and made a pass and resulted in a shot. And at some point you just kind of have to be like, well, why do we keep doing this thing that doesn't work?
Yeah, they're just not using him correctly. Like we have, I think, kind of concluded, he should really be up front, receiving these things, not passing away assist and stuff. That's not his game. So I don't know what Josh Wolf saw in this game for him, but I didn't see him all that.
Yeah, and even if you look at the hold-up play, I think I had the stat written down. It was under 50% in his duels that he won. So, he had moments where he would hold up play okay, but there are other times where he was getting knocked off the ball, and Austin FC were conceding possession. And so, yeah, I question that. And I'm not – I mean, we talked about it a bit last week, Jorge. I mean, Driussi and Wolf, they should be on the same page, right? Because they have experience working together in Columbus. So
he's familiar with the system, and he's just not connected.
And it just looks like there's a disconnect. Like, Wolf doesn't seem to understand what Zardes is good at. Zardes, doesn't look completely comfortable doing what Wolf's asking him. And at some point, somebody on this team needs to start scoring goals that isn't John Gallagher, because that's the only guy that seems to be a consistent goal-scoring threat at this point.
Could be Bruin. I mean, he did score that late goal, so...
I love.
I wouldn't put it past this technical staff to put him in starters suddenly, especially for Wednesday's game.
I think Bruin specifically said that he's a 25-minute player at this point, which is not surprising.
Yeah, he's a bit of an older side.
But
sure.
I think going back to the Zardes should fit in the system and blah blah. I think Zardes fits into last year's system. And as much as Wolf won't admit that things are different this year, they are different this year, and what he's being asked to do does not make sense in terms of what he brought in here for. He needs to be making runs behind the defense. He needs to be on the move. Yes. He said he's trying to be a post-up guy when he's not. I mean, he's a very tall body, but he's not a very wide body, and he gets pushed out of those spots. Yeah,
and one thing, like Scott said, that he would have been a great fit last year, but this year, I mean, I saw a stat somewhere on Twitter that this is the 12th game, 12th different starting lineup. So there's no consistency. So who's he going to receive the passes from? I mean, we talked about maybe Ethan Finley that's played with him before as artists in the same system. We've yet to kind of see that. We've seen him play a couple of minutes together, but nothing too concrete. So I'm still clamoring for that to happen. They could put Rigoni wherever he wants to be on the east side of on the left side of the field, but they're just not connecting with him right now. Neither one of the wings, and that really needs to happen as quickly as possible.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially if Driussi is out for at least 3 to 4 weeks, like it seems to be suggested. Like a striker needs to start scoring goals on this team yesterday. Yes. I mean, it needs to happen.
Yeah,
I don't know where the goals are going to come from otherwise.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Jerry. If we can get the highlights of this match, a lot of highlights in this one, 2-2. So a lot of fun here.
Yeah, this is kind of pretty much the standard 4-4-2 that Timbers likes to play with.
Yeah, I really.
Although I was a bit surprised, Chara was more in the defensive side. He didn't really figure all that much.
They've been doing that with him more to let Evander have more of a free role.
Yeah, right. Evander was fun to watch in this game.
He was. Yeah.
His movement off the ball is so good. He does so much to really make a defense move around and account for him.
This was, I think, the first goal, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, starting from the left side.
And it's just not a great situation where you have Lundqvist there trying to defend a center back on the back post there.
He was trying to jump up from going backward. You're not going to be able to do that physically. The physics just isn't there. So he was just wrong-footed, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think Redes probably could have done more there, closing out and stopping that cross.
I think some of the guys were in a bad position, but Lundqvist, I mean, geez, he flew diagonally instead of up.
That's also a really good finish.
It is
like,
true.
That's a really
not take away anything from the first goal this player has scored in MLS since 2019.
Wow,
that's the first goal. He wasn't even in MLS when he scored his previous goal. So that's
impressive.
A little bit of a fluke, but sure, okay, that's fine. And then we have Gallagher.
No fluke there. No. John Gallagher. This guy knows how to score a goal.
He knows where the goal is all the time, defensive or not. So he was in a good spot. Again, we saw Wolf pretty much start to play along with Redes.
And again, Redes and the outside wingers having an opportunity to cut inside and move with the ball more.
Absolutely.
Which enabled, which really happened in kind of both goals of really being able to enable Austin to get bodies forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think this right here a good example of you allow Redes to cut in a bit, and then you have Gallagher able to get further forward when you have that extra center back there, just kind of offering that protection. So this goal was a real, I think, real emblematic of what worked with this system in this match, the 3-4-3.
Yeah, definitely. And he's, and Gallagher, being Gallagher, the leading scorer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
A defender is a leading scorer for an MLS team.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a defender, he's a striker, he's an attacker.
Yeah, so you can put a bit of an asterisk by that since he is technically.
He's also one of those players who, in theory, you can put wherever.
And now we go to Claudio Bravo's goal.
Yes.
His first goal ever as a professional. He's been in several different leagues. So this is his first goal ever.
He had scored as many goals as the goalkeeper, Claudio Bravo, the Chilean goalkeeper, Claudio Bravo.
Pretty close, yeah. So, and this was also a little bit of a fluky play because it was a wishful shot, and it just happened to go in for him.
It looked like Stuver just didn't really get a good look at this one.
Yeah, he was kind of going the wrong way a little bit. So, that's where you take shots to see if they go in, and they went in for this guy, and it was now here again is the last goal for Bruin.
I think this is a little bit.
Yeah, this is the one example of the Zardes.
Oh, the great hold-up play from Giassi there.
Yeah, but if you notice, what started this whole sequence was Owen Wolf going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of that.
When Wolf goes forward, a lot more chances happen for Austin FC. So that really needs to. That goes again back to the domino effect of having Ring up in the midfield as a defensive midfielder. That allows Owen Wolf to go forward, and then there's this. A little bit of a wishful shot in there in the box as well, but
I mean, he whipped it in with good pace. He got it between the defenders and the keeper. He put up a ball that an attacker can attack.
Yeah,
then really be able to put some force on, and that's always a good cross. As much as the Austin FC crossing has been much maligned this year, like this is the correct way to do it.
Absolutely,
because you're putting the defender at a disadvantage where, the best thing he can do at that point is clear it for a corner.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely crossing with a purpose. This was not just a hopeful ball into the box. Let's see what happens. Like there was an actual plan here.
Yeah. So and with the Will Bruin up front, big Tusky guy, and we've mentioned before, probably good for 20 minutes.
Well, it's okay. So here, let's get into this real quick. So I wrote down some numbers. Will Bruin has not played very much this season, like at all. Like we look at the strikers on this team. I have the minutes written down.
Yeah.
Urruti 401 minutes, Zardes 493, Bruin just 45 minutes. So I think, as I guess Will said, he's a 25-minute guy, but still in a 10 games worth of minutes, he's only played 45. It's one half of football, basically. Do we want to see more of Will Bruin? We'll start with you, Scott.
No.
So you know what?
Okay, so let me rephrase that. No, because in theory, we only need to use Zardes and Urruti to score goals. I think Bruin playing is a sign that the expected
things are not going well.
That things are not necessarily going well.
Yeah.
Because for most MLS teams, they don't have a guy like Will Bruin. They would call up one of their next pro guys or one of their academy guys to be the third striker. Mm-hmm. Not to harsh on Will Bruin's great game-tying goal or anything, but in theory, he should only ever feature at the end of games when we are needing a goal or needing a big body to help defend on a set piece or whatever.
Agreed.
So in theory, no, we shouldn't be seeing him that much.
No, not.
So
as much as he's a great human being.
Yeah. No disrespect for Will Bruin, but like Scott said, he's a little bit further on his career.
Yes.
So he's not a starting player anymore, and
No,
I'm sure he realizes. I'm sure he realizes that now. By now that he was a trialist for Austin FC in the off season, and they just took a chance on him, and he's worked out well, to be honest. Obviously, with this latest goal, which is somewhere I saw on Twitter that AFC Communications is the latest Austin FC goal ever.
Really?
So,
wow, a bit of history on Saturday.
Yeah, he said a little bit of history. So kudos to him. But he realizes he's not the starting player. He's a guy that comes in the 70th minute like he did now.
So do you not think that? Okay, so obviously Rudy 1 goal, Zardes 0 goals.
Yeah.
Right now this season. Do you not think that if one of those guys starts, that then the first option off the bench, instead of going to the other one of Zardes or Rudy, that it maybe should be Bruin that comes on in, say, 65th, 70th minute to give you that 20, 25-minute burst there? Do you think maybe it should be Bruin instead of either the Zardes or Rudy that doesn't start? Because right now he's very clearly just the third option, the break glass in case of emergency striker.
Right, and in this case, it just happened to work out that way because they had already inserted Rudy for Zardes, and so
things were getting desperate.
So things were getting a little not desperate. They just needed a body out there, and they threw him in there.
I think game state dictated him coming in more than anything else, and I think that's kind of his usage a little bit more than anything is that. Because if he brings very specific things to the table, you would only need to use him in situations where you really need those things. I think, we saw against San Jose last week. He got subbed on late. I actually felt like he got subbed on late as a defensive replacement because we didn't have any size in the box to defend on set pieces, and he got brought in right before a set piece. And so that is kind of an interesting. That is kind of like an interesting dynamic to look at for a team that doesn't have a lot of size. That does not. That really does not have like the big bodies in the box to do that. And now that Julio's back, we kind of have two. So bringing in an extra body like that at the end of matches makes more sense.
Yeah. Austin FC's set piece defending this season has not been good. And it wasn't necessarily a set piece goal, the cross in that Lundqvist got beat on, but it's set piece ish type situation. Big cross into the box like that. So.
And so to answer your question, I mean. I would keep the same system they're doing now. Start one and substitute the other, and kind of break glass when broken. Bring in Bruin.
Okay, so he's still only in case of emergency.
In case of emergency,
we need a Photoshop of Will Bruin behind a glass case now.
Just kind of waiting.
Well, he likes his memes, Will Bruin. So
that's true. We might do that.
He's a real meme guy.
He might actually like that. Okay, so we've mostly, I think the three of us mostly been fairly positive on this. On his performance.
Especially, one statistic that I thought was interesting is that Austin FC actually took more shots on goal than Portland.
Yeah, so I actually got the numbers here.
Yeah.
Glad you're bringing up numbers.
Yes.
Scott's a big numbers guy. I'm a big numbers guy. David's not here, so we can
and
talk
I'm
all
not a numbers
we
guy, but I just saw that and said, wow.
But Austin FC, 11 shots to Portland's 9. Here's what I like, the expected goals. Was Austin FC 1.4 to 0.8 for Portland. So, I think you could say overall that Austin FC, they were the better team, I think in this performance. But I think there's a lot of positives that we can certainly take from this. But here's the concern I have, Driussi. I mean, if this guy is out for a month, Austin FC...
The busiest month, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to get to that.
Yeah.
6 matches, that's including Open Cup. So 5 league matches for the team that is currently in 12th position. You're about to have 5 league matches in this month without last season's MVP runner-up. Scott, I'll ask you. Can this team survive for an extended period of time without Driussi?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have to worry about anything. Scott says we're good.
We're set then.
I need to stop giving more.
Let's take.
Yeah, we can walk out.
We're done.
All right. No, yes, 5 matches is a lot. It's still only the 7th of the season. 9 of 14 teams make the playoffs.
That's
the thing to always keep in mind.
Yes,
saving grace there.
And even if you look at last season, Austin just really had like a couple of hot months. Like in MLS, you really only need to get hot for 2 or 3 months and you're fine. Maybe it'll help other players get a little more comfortable, and we do a little less Driussi watching, which I think the team kind of falls into for times.
Yeah. And
Messi
other teams as well.
Driussi watching.
And yes, of Driussi watching. And so I think Austin could definitely survive it. I'm still a little worried that I don't think we ever got an official communication about how long he's going to be out for.
Yeah, that's
and I feel like
that gamesmanship. He's want all the opponents not to know if Driussi's coming
It's a little bit of Bill Belichick-y kind of thing.
There's going to be a random picture on the Austin social media, Twitter, where like it looks like Driussi's practicing, and they're going to release it like right before the New Mexico match, or like while they're flying in, they're going to be like, huh?
You get like Driussi
confuse the hell out of him,
photoshopped on like his body or something like that. Okay, so Scott thinks we're okay.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure, Jorge. What do you think? Are Austin going to be okay without Driussi?
And the discussion that would just happen, something just popped in my head that pre Driussi's injury, every opponent was concentrated on Driussi. Now that he's not there, who are they going to concentrate on? They don't have anybody to focus on, so they're going to have to be a little more conservatively, I think, and that opens up for Austin FC. So if the guys can put their act together and score a goal here and there, the forwards, I think they'll be fine.
Where did the goals come from? That's the question I have.
That's the problem, that we can't rely on Gallagher to bail out the team all the time. He that's his game. He's a defensive player now, and he when he moves forward, when he got a chance, he does it. But that shouldn't be. The team shouldn't rely on that all the time.
I mean, this game, it's a defender and our break glass in case of emergency striker. Those are 2 goals.
Yeah,
so
and that's not going to.
We rely on this week in, week out, right?
Yeah, and so guys like Finley and Driussi, to be honest, Driussi's kind of stepped up a little bit. So I'm kind of hopeful that he'll continue.
Stepped up a bit,
yeah. And so that's a good sign, obviously. We're to see how he plays with Finley and whoever they put up front.
So I want to ask, Rigoni, I think this was a good performance from Rigoni. The thing that has me a little concerned, though, I think we're getting good Rigoni, but good Rigoni doesn't necessarily mean goals being scored by Rigoni. I just don't think we have necessarily a goal scorer. Do you agree with that? Scott, I don't think this is a guy that's going to get us 10 goals this season.
No, I agree with that because if you look at his stats everywhere he's been, Rigoni, for whatever reason, seems to be one of those players who you look at him and you're like, oh, he's tall, he's very fast, he's very good at this.
He looks the part.
He looks the part. You watch him dribble and he dribbles by guys and you're like, oh, this guy's great. And then you see him shoot and you're like, oh, wow. And then you look at the numbers and you're like, what? And like, I think that's something that happens in soccer more than other sports. Of players who are really talented, but because of just the nature of the sport, don't necessarily put up a lot of goals. I think Rigoni is. I think he's a fantastic player. I think playing him on the left, he looks much more comfortable.
Yeah.
I also think him and Rodney on the wingers works really well, and I hope that continues. I think the big worry is still who is that third person up front who's starting between them, who can kind of try to link up the 2 sides together.
Do you have a preference on that between Zardes or Rudy?
My preference is that when Driussi gets healthy, we play him as a false 9. Because I think based on what that position is asked to do, he would actually be much better at it. Because he would both be able to pull the defensive line up when he drops back and then be able to use his speed and pace to also get behind him.
I actually like this thinking a lot here, Scott.
Thank you. I've thought about it a lot. But really the better answer is I don't know that it matters which striker starts because I don't think either of them is that much better than the other.
Beginning to come around.
I've kind of coined the phrase this year of like striker du jour because like it just kind of is like it's Rudy's turn. It's fine. Like
Whoever starts. I mean,
I've been getting annoyed that Rudy kept starting. I really believed in Zardes. The next match, I don't really care. I think I'm at that point. Like whoever it is, I'm not gonna
throw a body.
Like,
I
don't have a strong opinion about it. I just don't. Like, I wish I did.
I'm very intrigued by this Driussi as false nine in honor of your site.
Of course,
false nine. Do you think Wolf would actually do that?
No.
Okay.
No.
I kind of don't see it happening either, unfortunately.
I don't. What I find most interesting about Wolf is how his playing style that he coaches is a complete antithesis to how he was as a player. When he was a player, he was a very fast. He had a lot of pace. He was very skilled. He still holds the record for most assists in a match for a Kansas City Wiz player.
Really?
Yeah, he still holds that record. Was a very good counter-attacker, was very good at getting into space and playing long balls. And then you watch Austin play and you're like, you hated your career. Like you didn't like the style you played at any point. Because he plays the exact opposite way. And I just always found that really interesting.
Yeah, and I think what happened is that the Josh Wolf, the player, just sort of ceased existing replaced by Josh Wolf, the coach, mentored by Berhalter. Right, Greg Berhalter. And
wait, is this an anti-Berhalter podcast?
No, it's not. No, I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying he learned from Greg Berhalter, and that's the system that U.S. soccer plays. Is the one that we play here. Obviously, U.S. soccer has much better players to kind of fulfill each role, but Austin FC players, along with the injuries, and gotta admit that some of the injuries. Ill-timed, obviously, Cascante and all those guys. But it's basically the same system. And it's not the system that Josh Wolf, as a player, used when he was in the U.S. men's national team and his MLS career.
I'm a little curious here, Scott. You perked up when Greg Berhalter's name was mentioned.
Yeah,
let's go that way. Let's take a little detour here.
No, I think Josh learned a lot from Greg Berhalter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't think that's a positive thing.
Okay.
You look at Josh Wolf's press conferences, and if you watch his press conferences and you watch a Berhalter press conference, it's like somebody took a tape recorder on one and brought it to the other one.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's the same
very
kind of
similar.
It's a very coach speak. It's the using the 3 or 4 buzzwords over and over again. It's also. All the criticisms you can have of Berhalter and Berhalter's system are the exact same criticisms you can have in terms of not making adjustments, of not playing your players in their best positions, of having a rotation of strikers who can't score. And at some point,
it's starting to look similar now.
That one cut deep, Scott. That cut deep. Yeah.
And so, as somebody who is not a fan of Berhalter and never has been, when I watch Austin, I get those worrisome things of of seeing I don't want to say deja vu because it's not really deja vu, but seeing the similarities of them.
Yeah, I would rather see a much more dynamic type of pushing forward and utilizing the forwards more.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it just a couple weeks ago, just how slow Austin FC plays.
Yes.
The stats, the Opta stats show that Austin FC, I haven't looked at them lately, but as of a couple weeks ago, they were the slowest team in MLS.
Which is surprising, having guys like Wolf and Owen Wolf and Pereira, 2 of the fastest players in MLS, period.
Well, and also
so they're not using, I don't think they're using those 2 guys the way they should previously. I think they're starting to now, where they're pushing forward. You saw, again, Wolf, pretty much man of the match because he was involved in both run-ups to the goals.
I'm okay with saying he's man of the match.
Yeah, same. It's interesting because one of the big criticisms of Austin in 2021 was that they didn't have team speed.
Yeah.
Now they do have team speed. They have a lot of guys who are just burners.
Yeah.
Rigoni is really fast. True. Yeah. Rodney's fast. Finley's fast. Driussi, when he gets going, is fast. And we utilize none of that. And it's really
we pass backwards all the time.
It's an interesting look at how the system and the style of play has not changed, even though the players have changed.
That is a very good point. And I think it is interesting. We talk about the speed that is on this team. How much trouble Austin FC have breaking down low blocks. We see that. Obviously, always near the top in possession, and will struggle against low block. Why not just hit it a little bit quicker? And so you don't have to go up against the low block. Try and take advantage of a team before their defense gets set. We don't see Austin FC do that enough.
Yeah, and that's where the lack of using the speed that they have in the roster comes into play. They're not using that.
But
really
then they
aren't.
wouldn't win the possession battle at the end, and what's even the point then?
And we already know how that important that is.
Likes stats more than me, it's Josh Wolf. Josh Wolf, he always talks the XG. He knows all the stats. And speak of the devil, Josh Wolf, we actually have Josh Wolf's press conference, and Jerry Lopez is about to get that fired up here for us. If you want to hear some coach speak, get ready.
Hi, Josh. We have 4 goals in 2 games. It seems like everything is working good. Rigoni, first assistant, Bruin, but it seems like we're still suffering to tie the game. Meaning was lost until minute 92. What do you think is the factor of this?
When we give up goals, you gotta be able to grind and come back. We're playing on the road in Portland, which is one of the most difficult places in the league to play. So I think we gotta be clear with what the expectations are. We want to come away with 3 points always. The performance overall was quite good. So I think what the result is sometimes not reflective of the performance, and we put ourselves behind a couple times, but. Like last week, we should have won the game. Like previous games, we should have won games. So, you shouldn't have to score 3 goals every game to win. So I think that's part of it as well. But the guys did extremely well with taking in the information from the week and obviously applied it in a good way. And the players totally feel and understand that dominated the game, which I think was quite clear statistically and optically. So we just got to do better in these little moments. Boxes, goals change games, and I think we deserve more goals. We created many more chances, better chances, and we got to reward ourselves and obviously have a shrewdness in front of goal.
Are you seeing what you want on the field with the teams? That's one question. And the last one will be it seems like we're doing better, on the field, but we're gonna be on the 12th place. Actually, we're on the 12th place now.
Yeah, it's a long season. I think it's again, we've been without 4 starters at some point now. So Diego hopefully coming back. Julio, we just got back. Z tore his ACL. Obviously Seba's out. There's a strong chance Owen makes the U20 World Cup team and he'll be missing. So, it's a long season. It's been a difficult start. We've had to nurse some of these injuries. We're going to have schedule congestion, and I think the guys are responding in a good way. And, I don't know what place we're in right now. I'm not too concerned about now. I think the end of the season is what's most important. We got to keep getting better, which I think has been clearly the case over the last few performances. And we got to have more, more ruthlessness and certainly determination to muster up and be on the other side of draws. We got to win some of these games. This is another game that I think we put enough into it. We deserve more out of it. And, obviously we had to come from behind, but that's also a good quality.
So if you had a coach speak drinking game going, you'd pretty much be drunk right
Yeah,
now, because you got to grind,
Goals change games.
goals change games,
Ruthlessness.
It was all there.
It was all there.
Any thoughts on the coach there? His hostage video that he's released for us?
Yeah, he's. I'm not surprised that obviously he's not going to give too much information or all this kind of stuff because coaches don't talk that way anyway. But I was surprised a little bit because like I said, in the Spanish broadcast, they kept bringing up Owen Wolf, that he was going to be out for pretty much the month for the Under-20 World Cup. And so that's probably another wrinkle in the starting lineup that's going to happen, especially with New Mexico United coming in on Wednesday. But he kept repeating the same thing. You put up his press conferences, and it's the same press conference 12 other times. There's
that
nothing
actually be a really
new.
fun video kind.
Yeah, they should do that. And
that seems like a Club Deportes video right there.
Yeah,
it seems like a tweet that would go out and stir up a bit of controversy.
Exactly.
But I want to talk about Owen Wolf quickly here, because it looks like he's going to be going to the U20 World Cup, which runs from May 20th through June 11th. We just talked about him. We I think all kind of agree he was the man of the match. Like, how big of an absence? We'll start with you, Scott. Do you think Owen Wolf is going to be?
No, I think it's a big absence because especially without Driussi, and we're fortunate that Julio's back, because otherwise I have no idea what our midfield would be unless. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Sofian Jafal, but like I don't know that he's somebody who should be starting an entire month in a row.
Yeah, no, Jorge and I are part of the Jafal hive. Like we want to see more Jafal,
yes,
but I don't know. I don't know about
same. Okay, we're on the same page here.
Yeah,
that's good. But at the same time, I don't know that he's like a locked-in starter for a month.
Oh no.
I think the other thing that I think we miss is Owen's positional flexibility in the sense that he would be able to sub in on the right if we need, to rotate a little bit more. And he's played such an integral role in the midfield this year that being able to bring Alex Ring off the bench of a midfield is such a huge luxury for an MLS team that really only the teams like LAFC really have.
Yeah,
being able to bring on like a player of that caliber. So missing him is going to be a big problem for depth during our busiest month.
And then that being said, I foresee a lot of Valencia coming in.
Okay, now I want to ask here, Jorge, with Wolf leaving, I would prefer Jafal to start seeing more minutes over Valencia.
Yes.
So you think it'll be Valencia?
I think it'll be Valencia because Wolf has a tendency to put guys with experience before guys that are just starting out, other than his son. But
shots fired.
What's actually interesting is I think Jafal actually has more MLS experience than Valencia does.
Probably does.
Because Jafal played a lot for DC United last year and looked really good. Like he had really good stats. It just Wolf has this idea that like everybody needs a redshirt year.
I would honestly. We've talked for several weeks now. We would like to see Jafal more. To see what he's got. He's been given limited minutes, has not started a game for Austin FC yet. He could be the starter for against New Mexico United to see what he's got. And it's going to be a game at home. New Mexico United has not been very well, has not played very well this season.
Right now.
They're ninth right now.
USL West.
And so they're a little bit of a lull. So it's probably a good game for him to get his feet wet to see what he's got.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I'm a little concerned about, and I think obviously we're really going to miss from Owen Wolf, is just we saw how often he was getting forward in this match, and like even Jafal at his best, I don't think is like I think still more of a profile is more of like a defensive midfielder. So maybe this means Danny Pereira can start to get forward a bit more. If either Jafal or Valencia sits, Pereira can get forward.
He for DC he played a little bit more of a box to box when he got some freedom.
Okay.
I think he could play more in that kind of style in our system, especially with Pereira behind him. The question is whether or not that's how Josh decides to position the midfield.
Gotcha.
Because to me, he seems like the obvious person at the more advanced of the two midfield roles to fill in.
Yeah, absolutely. And so because we know what we're going to get with Valencia. He's a defensive midfielder. He's not going to go forward. And so who do you put? If you start him, you put Pereira. Pereira's more of a box to box and just go forward. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the way they're going to be able to play, perfect.
Yeah,
but
I don't necessarily hate that because Danny's going forward.
I don't hate it either. The big deficiency because of Josh's system is that the 6 is so important as a linking player in the attack that Valencia doesn't profile there either.
Yeah, no,
he did not look very good on the ball
at all.
Okay, let's. You alluded to this earlier. We're on Club Deportes. We gotta get into the juicy stuff, the gossip. Okay, and so you pointed out the captaincy for this match against Portland. And I know we discussed this on FCTV because, of course, we did. It was like right out of the gate on FCTV.
That was Jorge's like number one thing.
Like
that's the first thing I saw.
It was like
it was the captaincy. So on Futbol En Vivo, we give you the meat first, then we get to the dessert. So now we're on to the dessert here.
Yes.
So the captaincy for this match, Julio Cascante, not Alex Ring, captain of the 2 previous seasons. Does that make sense to you?
No, it did not, especially when I saw Ring's name there. I thought for sure, if they have a leadership council from what Josh Wolf has mentioned before, that there's a leadership council. So there's like 5 or 6 guys that are like the leaders of the team. And I imagine, obviously, Cascante is one of those, but I was still shocked to see his captaincy ahead of Ring. Because I think Ring's more deserved throughout his career for it, and even this year, he stepped up as a corner, as a central mid defender when that wasn't his position. So he's giving it all to the team. For him not to be kind of rewarded as a captain, that seems kind of disrespectful. But I don't know the dynamics.
It just seems like you're like to an extent, like you're almost just like picking on Ring. Like you take the
They're
captaincy
like
away from
poking
him
him for some reason.
You
I don't
bench him the
understand.
first game of the season. Now he does great work for you playing out of position as a defender for the last couple months. And now here he is. Driussi's out. You give him the armband back, and you give it to Cascante. And as you said on FCTV, Scott, he wasn't even like the vice captain because whenever Cascante went off, who was it? Stuber?
It was Stuber.
Yeah, the armband goes to Stuber. What do you think's going on here, Scott? Am I reading too much into this?
I think that at some point there's a list of captains, and Ring is just not on that list. And I think that list is probably consists of the leadership council or whatever they call it, of like possible captains, and Ring's not on it. And
Exclusive club. Then.
Exactly, it's exclusive.
I don't know what you need to do to get on that. But jeez.
That's not to ask questions.
That's speculating here. But.
I don't. In the abstract, I don't mind Julio being captain. I think that he's
No, it wasn't, and it's not anything against Julio.
Yeah, like that's the thing is like I don't see any problem with Julio being captain. I think he's the kind of person who has the leadership to be able to pull that off. I think him as a captain makes sense. It's just very surprising to see somebody who has captained the team more than anybody else by a large margin be a starter without the usual captain there and not be captain and not even be vice captain and giving it to a keeper who, just personal opinion, should never be captain. Your captain should always be near the ref to argue with the ref.
Exactly.
That's like
that
the point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that there's a list and Ring just isn't on it. It's like the list of penalty takers. Like you only really have a list of 5, and then everybody else doesn't matter. And there's like a list of like 5 people who could be captain, and nobody else matters.
So why do you think he would be on that list though? Because if he we did he's been the captain for 2 seasons, first captain the team ever had.
At some point, it will leak what happened, and then we will find out.
It sounds like maybe he burned bridges. Or
it will
something.
probably be when he leaves.
Which I think there's an option for next season, but he can leave Austin FC after this season.
Yes.
Yeah. And we see his family's Instagram posts in Finland all the time. They are not here. They are away. And I just wonder if it's another situation of like, I'm done living here. I'm going to go live with my family.
Yeah, I don't foresee Ring be coming back next year, to be honest.
No, I
and
don't.
so
which from a roster construction perspective could actually make some sense because it does kind of free up a DB spot and
that is true.
Like, if we're going to play a system with
wingbacks
and featuring wingbacks, we should probably have a DP wingback or something.
And that's another thing. If Ring's still a DP, that's another reason why you don't put him as captain. I mean, to have Ring as a DP, not being the captain in below what would be a defensive player. Ring's a better arguer against referees than Cascante.
Ring's won quite a few arguments.
He's good.
My favorite Alex Ring moments are always when he clearly fouls somebody and gets called and doesn't like it, and then plays like his feet are on fire for the next 5 minutes. And every time he makes a tackle, it's just like he feels like it feels like he's doing that water boy thing where like he pictures like something else while he's doing it, and he's just the ref.
It just
like taking
doesn't
guys
work.
out.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite parts of the Alex Ring experience.
Yeah, he tends to get a little emotional for when that happens, and for the most part, he's a pretty even keeled guy. But every once in a while, he loses control a little bit, and when he loses control, he loses control. And so, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for a captaincy. Especially, it could have been also that Cascante is more familiar with the Timbers than Ring is. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to speculate. Yeah, it's hard to speculate.
Yeah, to me, it was weird. I noticed it, and I didn't see a ton of talk about it online, but it was definitely something that I noticed. And Jorge Iturralde did not escape the watchful eyes of Jorge Iturralde. So I'm glad.
I thought.
I'm glad we're getting into it.
But like I said, when the line kind of, that's the first thing that I saw. The first thing we knew Cascante was going to play. We didn't know if he was going to start or I thought for sure.
First thing you saw was
I thought for sure he was
going
to be a substitute. Give him a couple 15, 20 minutes to get back. But to be starter and captain coming back from an injury, it was a little risky there.
See, I expected him to start because just from a match management perspective, you never want to bring somebody on who you think you're going to sub on for again. Yeah. And so you'd want to start him, and then if, God forbid, something bad happened, you'd still be able to use a sub as opposed to having to use a second sub.
Yeah.
So when I heard that he was going to play, I kind of assumed he was going to start for that reason.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's get into a bit more specifics on Josh Wolf and just kind of the job he is doing this season. So Austin FC, in 12th place. So obviously this is far below of where our expectations would have been at the start of the season. But this is a team that has had a lot of injuries, and we just saw them go away to Portland, one of the most difficult places to play in the league. Yeah, there they are, 12th place. It's not pretty reading. We just saw them go on the road to Portland without, their captain, their leader, runner-up in MVP voting last season, Sebastian Driussi. And we're able to, with a new formation, get a 2-2 draw.
Result, yeah.
How is Wolf doing coping with the injuries, the center back crisis? And the center back crisis, I should point out, actually this is a front office failing that the team went into this season with the lack of depth at that position that they did. Like the fact that they thought that Kip Keller and Amaro Tarek were going to be like legitimate guys who could get MLS minutes. That's not just Wolf's fault. That is 100% the front office's fault. Because I had questions going into the season, and those questions have been answered that those guys aren't good enough to be full-time players in MLS. So how would you rate Wolf overall, and just considering all of the issues that the team has had with injuries and just, maybe not squad depth in the areas that you would like, how do you think Wolf has done overall?
I'm going to grade him as a C. And the reason why, if we're going to use a grading system, and the reason why is the substitutes. They played badly. He knows what he's got in his roster and all this kind of stuff. But it's the substitutions that kind of give me pause into some of his reasoning. We thought he was getting better last year because he made very good substitutions last year. But this year, it's a lot of hit and miss. So it's not like he's learned his lesson, except in that Portland game, obviously, there were good substitutes. But you got to consistently use what you have in your roster. And you got to use what you have in your roster. And he's not really adjusting all that well until recently. He's sort of been sticking to this formation, next man up. And he's not really taking into account the best qualities of his players. And so Zardes is a good example. Is that he wants to play him in a certain way that Zardes isn't comfortable playing in. So he's not being very productive, and that just looks bad on the team. So he needs to do a better job, I think, of assessing, of adjusting, of changing his tactics, his formation to adjust to the strengths of the players.
I think that's a good point. And actually, I think this game against Portland, going to the 3-4-3 with those wing backs in this match without Driussi, I think this was – obviously, we can quibble about how Zardes was utilized, but I think overall you'd have to say that this was a pretty impressive, coaching from Wolf to actually make that formation switch and have it succeed as it did. Scott, what do you think? How is Wolf doing overall? Were you impressed with just the tactics, the formation change for this match against Portland?
I like the formation change because I liked how it made a very strong effort to get our best 11 players on the field, which I think is inherently the job of the coaches to figure out who your best 11 are and how to get them in a formation that works. And a lot of coaches are very bad at this.
Yes, indeed.
I probably would have said an F.
Whoa!
Because
you're filling in perfectly for not me. I know you would have said F.
But
100%.
You are what your record says you are. It's the same thing of if you take a test, your score is based on how many answers you get right and how many answers you get wrong. Well, we're in 12. You have to grade based on what has actually happened. I think that there's, I think there's been improvement. I think the last 2 weeks have looked a lot better. It's looked like last year. You've seen more fight in the team. You've seen more heart in the team. Maybe this is the start of building momentum into getting a hot streak, and in 2 months people are going to be like, you gave him enough. But
officially, is that your official grade here?
Oh yeah, I'm going to give him enough. I'll just lead it to it. Okay. Because again, they're in 12th. You have to grade based on what your record is.
So even with the center back situation, Driussi being out this game, Fagundes being out,
everybody has injuries. That's the thing. One of the things I've learned from looking at all the MLS teams is that everybody's without a few starters. Portland was without multiple starters on Saturday. So you can't just use that as an excuse of we didn't have a perfectly healthy team. And it's
nobody's got.
This isn't FIFA where you can turn off injuries and your team's perfectly healthy all the time. That's something that happens.
I think that is fair. I'm a bit closer to you, Jorge. I think it's maybe been a C minus kind of performance from Wolf. But yeah, valid point. You kind of are who your record says you are, and everyone does have injuries. And I think you could look at someone like Zardes and go, there's a lot of teams that would love to have Giassi Zardes and his abilities on this team. And
can we call them? Is that
a little trade maybe?
Yeah, we can get some GAM, right?
I mean, the thing is, last season playing, I think 10 goals is what he had with a
10
bad
goals.
Colorado team.
With two
Yeah.
bad teams.
Yeah.
With two bad teams, he actually had a better goal scoring record than Maxey had.
Yeah,
even though
he
like
did.
the offensive talent around him was much less than what Maxey did.
So I mean that reflects a bit on Wolf that he's not getting better performances.
And going back to the roster construction, I think that's a very fair criticism. I think we would view this team very differently, and I think the team would view itself very differently had they held on and won 2-1 against St. Louis. I think that was kind of an omen for how the season was going to go.
Yes, I agree 100%.
And bringing in Tarek, who is kind of a journeyman and is going to be a center half, and basically got one opportunity and is now going to go to like FCito. It sounds like, which is just kind of like. Just not a great like career turn for him. I'm glad Kibbe's getting minutes and on Austin FC too. I think that Austin kind of did a disservice to him last year and lost too by not getting them more minutes on the field, either by a loan or by having. But obviously they can just quick start in the next pro team. But like that did do a disservice and hurt their development in terms of not being able to get on the field and be a leader and be the kind of person that you expect to build around. Which ultimately is the goal of your first round pick, is to still have somebody who's going to be a like solid starter for you. And Damian Loss has been great. There were rumblings on Saturday at the watch party about like, oh, he should start like for the first team, and I was kind of like, we're already.
Hold
Well,
on.
let's look ahead because Austin FC next match, U.S. Open Cup this coming Wednesday against New Mexico United. So you might see some call ups from the second team.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask. I mean, Austin FC, we know what happened in CCL.
Yeah.
And that there was a heavily rotated squad in that game. Austin FC lost, particularly that first leg, and just got smashed 3-0. How important is it that Austin FC win this game against New Mexico United? I'll ask you first, Scott.
Very.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be careful before you start saying, let's bring in all the kids.
Yeah, like
heavily rotate, right?
I don't agree about bringing on like Austin, even though like the first team players or the first team contract players on FCito. I don't think that's the thing to do. I think this is a real opportunity for Austin to try to go out and try to win real silverware. Not just like Copa Tejas, but it's not like
Not officially sanctioned.
It's not. Yeah, like we don't get to keep that trophy forever, or like we don't put up a banner for Copa Tejas wins. So I think it should be something that they take seriously, especially playing at home. USL sides, there's a lot of talk about USL Cup sets and blah blah blah, but those typically happen when the USL team's hosting, like San Antonio against Austin last year. Or if the MLS team is hosting not at their usual stadium, like Atlanta had to play out in the suburbs somewhere because they didn't want to be at Mercedes-Benz, and so they lost to Memphis. But we're playing in our actual home, like on a exciting thing, and so that should be a match that we should go out and try to win.
Agree. Yeah. There's still the ghost of the loss last year.
Yes.
Against San Antonio.
Yes.
And San Antonio will not let Austin FC fans forget it. Every time you go on Twitter, they will remind you.
Those same two people are always there.
It's the same people, but they will remind you that Austin FC lost on it, and so it's not. This is not going to make up for that, but it goes to show the importance of what the U.S. Open is for an Austin FC team that is not doing very well in their own conference. They really need to step it up for this tournament.
I agree with you 100%. I think we're getting a little low on timing, but I want to get this in because I saw this on The Athletic, and it annoyed me so much. This was MLS Commissioner Don Garber actually had some thoughts. I don't know if you saw this, Scott, or if you heard, but had some thoughts on the U.S. Open Cup. He said it's a very poor reflection of what we're trying to do with soccer at the highest level. He cited the subpar fields that the games take place on. Also said that the games were hard to find. Actually, streaming for free on YouTube is a little easier to find than
It's probably easier
than the paywall that the MLS games are hiding behind.
Than Apple Plus, but sure.
So I really didn't like that. I love the U.S. Open Cup. I think it's one of the coolest things in U.S. soccer.
Yeah.
It has a very long history. I love that MLS teams go to these little tiny like high school football stadiums and play.
Absolutely, it's great.
I think that's to actually bring up the subpar field is the reason why the competition isn't a good reflection of the sport in this country, you're just completely missing the point.
And also, like, you can't say that when an MLS team didn't play at their home stadium and played in a high school football stadium like Atlanta United did.
Exactly.
Whose fault is that?
Yeah,
it's MLS's fault because they didn't want to play in their own stadium. I mean,
and same with Seattle. Seattle didn't do that either. Like, if you're gonna make those comments and make a big deal out of it, then you need to check your own house first. Of like,
exactly.
MLS needs to be in these. They need to be in their own stadiums and play it up that way. And not that like all those fields weren't great. Like some of the USL fields were a little like
they're subpar a little bit, sure.
You also have one of your flagship teams playing in baseball stadiums on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Don Garber. So,
So does New Mexico United. So
and their rival Paso Locomotive, they play in this baseball stadium too.
yes.
So a lot of USL teams play in these kinds of multi-use stadiums, put it that way. So is that a bad reflection or a good reflection? I mean, that could hinder a little bit, but I don't think anybody's really gotten injured or the play has been subpar because of that.
I don't think you see it necessarily a ton of that. Okay, so just real quick, because I think we're just about out of time. Just quick predictions for New Mexico, and then we'll get Dallas in as well. But we'll start with New Mexico. Jorge, give me a score line. Who wins this?
2-0 Austin.
2-0 Austin?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Scott?
Also 2-0 Austin. I said that earlier, so I'm consistent.
Yeah, and I think I said 3-0. So if you're watching both shows, you've already heard
my
thoughts on this.
Right.
But just in case anyone, definitely watch FCTV. If you're a Futbol En Vivo fan and haven't checked it out, always watch FCTV as well. But FC Dallas, Jorge, your prediction for this one. This is, I am a little concerned about this.
Yeah, it's going to be at Dallas. And so, it's here, actually. I'm sorry. It's here. I am a little concerned as well, obviously, because FC Dallas is playing much better than they did last year. So it really depends on, I hate to say it like a broken record, but it depends on the lineup that Austin FC puts out. If they put the same lineup that they put up against Portland.
You want to see the 3-4-3 again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think
if anything, to confuse or give FC Dallas a different look that they're probably not going to get used to. I think that'll help a lot. So I really foresee a tie here. One tie.
Now, I know what you think, Scott, but if we're smart, we should just pick a different thing than what we did on the first show. It kind of increase our odds to get these predictions right.
Oh, it's like the gambling sites that send out the stickers with like the different... One, it's a derby, and you can never predict a derby. I also think that Austin and Josh Wolf specifically have made a lot of efforts to make changes to combat the style that FC Dallas plays.
Yes.
One of the Apple commentators made a mention about how Austin was much better at playing out of a press than they were last year, and that's part of the formation and how they kind of redistribute the numbers a little bit. And I think Saturday is a big test for that. I think for a lot of the LAFC match, you saw it too, because of especially the way the LAFC was able to just like absolutely destroy Austin last year, but they kind of weren't able to do that. I'm interested to see if that holds true against FC Dallas, especially with how they like to play and having all their players in. I think Ariola's healthy still, or back to being healthy.
Ariola's close, I think. Yeah. I'm not sure.
So I'm very interested to see that. I predicted 3-2 Austin win earlier, and I stand by that.
Okay. I'll stick with my 2-1 Austin FC win from the previous show.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I think they're playing well, and I think it finally happens. I think we finally 7 straight games without a win. I think it's 8th time's a charm.
They're going to win eventually sometimes.
Just a reminder: FC Dallas has never beaten Austin FC besides when we were an expansion team.
Really?
I like that. Good stat there, Scott. Okay, it's been so much fun having you on the show, Scott. Appreciate it. Apologies for the lack of an introduction at the beginning of the show. Doing 2 shows in one night, man. That's a lot. That's tough work. That's tough work. So yeah,
especially because like you changed seats. So
I changed seats. I was a little discombobulated at the beginning, but we picked it up. I really appreciate you having here. You bring an excellent analysis. Check out the False Nine. Definitely check out the We Are Austin TV blog as well. Yeah. Very good stuff. Thank you to Jerry Lopez. Thank you to our audience. We're going to do this again next week.